The rain on Veganine was not water. It was thin silver mist that fell from the sky and turned the metal streets into mirrors. Mara stepped off the shuttle with a small brown suitcase. The only thing left from her old life, her boots made soft echoes as she walked. Everywhere she looked, the people of the colony turned away. Some glanced at her and whispered. Some pretended she was not there at all. She was human, and here, that was not a good thing. The colony was a place of noise and lights. Tall buildings, made of black steel, stood over narrow streets. Neon signs glowed in alien languages she could not read. Vendors shouted to sell food wrapped in steam. Cargo drones flew past, their wings making a sharp hum. Mara pulled her coat tighter. The air was cold and tasted like iron. The sky above was hidden by layers of fog. She had come here to find a place to live. But Veganine was not kind to strangers. It was even less kind to a lonely human woman with no family. She walked into a small inn. The owner, a tall insect-like alien with silver eyes, looked at her once and shook his head. "No room for you," he said, without asking her name when she tried another place. The answer was the same. Sometimes they didn't even speak, just closed the door. It was as if they could see trouble following her, and they wanted no part of it. Mara's husband had been gone for a year now. They said he died in a pirate raid. She had seen the smoke, the fire, the broken metal of the ship. But she had never seen his body, sometimes in the quiet. She wondered if he had died at all. She had left Earth because there was nothing left for her there. She had hoped another world would give her a chance. But every step on Veganine told her the same thing. No home wanted a widow like her. The day turned into night quickly on the colony. Lights came on in the streets, painting the mist in green and red. Shadows moved between the buildings. Some were people hurrying home. Some were not people at all. Mara found herself at the edge of the market district. The stalls were closing. The smell of cooked food faded into the cold air. Her stomach growled, but she had little money left. She would need to save it for shelter, if anyone would give it to her. The wind grew sharper. It carried the sound of metal doors locking. Mara stopped walking and looked around. The streets were almost empty now, only a few dim figures in the mist. That was when she saw him. He stood half hidden in a doorway. Tall, thin. Wearing a long coat that brushed the ground, his face was in shadow, but his eyes glowed faint blue in the dark. They did not blink, they did not look away. He was watching her. Mara's first thought was to turn around, go back toward the main street, but something in the way he stood made her pause. It was not the stance of someone ready to attack. It was the stillness of someone waiting. She walked forward, pretending not to notice him. But she could feel his gaze follow her every step. The street curved, and for a moment, she thought she had lost him. Then, in the corner of her eye, she saw him again, now standing at the mouth of an alley ahead of her. It was as if he had moved without making a sound. Her heart began to beat faster. She gripped the handle of her suitcase. She told herself to keep moving. Don't talk to him. Don't stop. But when she tried to pass, he stepped out of the shadows. The faint blue light in his eyes grew brighter, and in a voice low and calm, he said, "You need warmth." The words were strange in her ears. No one else here had spoken to her kindly. No one had cared. But now, here was a stranger, not human, not safe, offering something she had not felt in a long time. Mara opened her mouth to speak, but he was already turning, walking slowly down the alley. He did not look back. Yet something about his steps told her he knew she would follow. She looked at the empty street behind her, the cold mist on her face, the locked doors and the neon lights fading in the distance. Then she looked into the alley. It was dark, narrow, and unknown, but somewhere in that darkness was warmth and after so many nights in the cold, she could not stop herself from stepping forward. The alley felt like another world. The noise of the colony market faded behind Mara. The mist was thicker here, clinging to her skin like cold fingers. Her boots splashed through shallow puddles that reflected broken pieces of neon light. The stranger walked ahead without sound, his coat trailing across the wet ground. She could not hear his footsteps. It was as if the mist carried him. Mara kept her distance. She did not trust him. But there was something in the way he moved slow. Certain, like a man who had nothing to fear. Every few steps he tilted his head slightly. As if listening to sounds she could not hear, she wondered if she was making a mistake. Following a stranger in a place where no one cared if she disappeared, they turned a corner, and the alley opened into a quiet docking yard. Tall metal walls surrounded the place. Several old cargo ships rested on their landing pads. Most were dark and lifeless. Only one had a faint light glowing from inside. The stranger stopped in front of it. The soft blue glow from his eyes matched the light spilling from the ship's doorway. "This is my home," he said. His voice was deeper now, but still calm. He looked at her in a way that made her feel seen. Not just looked at, but understood. "You need warmth," he repeated. The words were not just about heat, they felt heavier. Like he was speaking about something inside her. Something missing. Mara hesitated. She thought about running. She thought about saying she didn't need help. But the truth was, she did. She was tired. Cold, hungry. And more than that, she was tired of being alone. She gave a small nod. The stranger stepped aside, holding out one hand toward the open door. "Come," he said. Inside, the ship was not what she expected. It was old, but clean. The air was warm, carrying a faint scent of something sweet, almost like flowers. The walls were lined with shelves holding strange objects, glass spheres filled with shimmering dust. Metal tablets covered in glowing symbols. A long table in the center held tools she had never seen before. The light came from thin glowing strips along the ceiling, casting a soft golden hue. "You can leave your bag there," the stranger said. Pointing to a bench near the door, she set her suitcase down carefully, still watching him. He moved with quiet precision, every step measured. He did not rush. He poured 2 cups of something hot from a small metal pot. The liquid was dark and sent a wave of warmth into the air. He handed 1 cup to her. "Drink." She took it slowly, her fingers brushing against his for a moment. His skin was cool, colder than she expected, but his presence made her feel strangely safe. The drink was bitter at first, then warm and smooth. It filled her chest with heat. She didn't realize how cold she had been until now. "My name is Kale," he said. His voice was steady. She noticed his accent, not human, but clear enough to understand. "Mara," she replied softly. For a moment, they sat in silence. She watched him over the rim of her cup. The glow in his eyes dimmed slightly, like a lantern lowering its light. She wondered if it was because he was relaxed or hiding something. "You have no place to stay," Kale said, not as a question, but as a fact. "No." She admitted. "They fear you," he said. She gave a small, bitter laugh. "They fear humans." "They fear what follows humans," Kale corrected. The words made her pause. "What do you mean?" Kale looked away for a moment, then back at her. "You carry more than grief, Mara," he said quietly. "You carry a shadow." She set her cup down, unsure how to answer. His eyes met hers again, and this time she saw something there, not just light, but recognition. It was as if he knew her pain. Not because he imagined it, but because he had seen it before. "You are safe here," Kale said. "If you choose to stay." Mara's heart beat faster. She had heard promises before, and she had learned they often came with a price. "What do you want from me?" she asked. Kale tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "Nothing you are not willing to give," he said. It was an answer, but also not an answer. A faint hum vibrated through the floor beneath her boots. Somewhere deeper in the ship, machinery was running. It was steady, rhythmic, almost like breathing. "What's down there?" she asked, nodding toward a closed door at the far end. Cale's gaze followed hers. "That is the cargo hold," he said simply. "What's in it?" He took a slow sip from his cup. "Not for you." The words were calm, but final, she felt. The air between them grew heavier. She looked at the door again, wondering what he was hiding. And why, despite the warning in his voice. Part of her wanted to find out. Outside, the mist was still falling. The colony streets were still cold and empty. But in here, in this old cargo ship with a stranger who is not human, Mara felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Not just warmth, but the start of something she could not name yet. The hum of the ship followed Mara into her dreams. It was soft at first, like a distant song, but as the night went on, it grew louder in her mind. Every beat felt like it came from deep under the floor. She woke more than once, unsure if it was the ship breathing, or something else. Cale had given her a small cabin near the back of the ship. It was simple, a narrow bed, a small desk, and a single light fixed into the wall. The blanket was rough but warm. Still, sleep did not come easily. Her thoughts kept returning to the locked door at the far end of the hallway. The cargo hold, Cale's voice from earlier, echoed in her memory. "Not for you." By morning, the ship was quiet again. The hum was gone, replaced by the sound of Cale moving in the main room. Mara stepped out of her cabin. The air was warmer than she expected, almost like spring. She found Cale standing by a metal console, his hands moving quickly over glowing controls. When he saw her, he nodded once. "Morning," he said. His voice was calm as always, but his eyes were brighter today. Almost alert, Mara poured herself a cup from the same pot as last night. The drink was bitter, but warming. She noticed Cale's gaze flicker to the hallway. Behind her, toward the cargo hold. Then it returned to her. He didn't say anything, but she felt the unspoken warning between them. "Do you always live alone?" she asked. "Yes," Cale replied without looking up. "You've never had crew?" "Once," he said. "Long ago." Something in his voice hinted at loss, but he didn't explain. She wondered if his story was like hers, full of things taken, full of things left unsaid. By midday, Cale left the ship. He said he had business in the market district and would be gone for hours. Mara watched him disappear into the mist outside the docking yard. The door sealed behind him with a hiss. The ship was now hers, and her curiosity was a restless thing. She walked the length of the main room slowly. Her steps were soft, her ears open for any sound. The hum had returned, faint but steady. It came from the hallway where the locked door waited. Each step closer made it stronger. When she reached the door, she placed her hand on the cold metal. It pulsed faintly beneath her palm. Something alive was in there, or something pretending to be alive. The lock was a panel with strange, shifting symbols. She had no idea how to read them, but she noticed faint scratches near the edge, as if someone had tried to open it before. She leaned closer. The hum deepened, and now she could hear something else, a whisper, low and fast. In a language she didn't know, it was not coming from behind the door exactly. It was inside her head. She stepped back quickly. Her heart was racing. The whisper faded, but the hum remained. She told herself not to try again. Cale's warning wasn't just for control. There was danger in that hold. Danger she could feel. To distract herself, Mara explored the rest of the ship. There were 2 other small cabins, empty but clean. A storage room with shelves of preserved food. A narrow ladder that led to the engine deck. Everywhere she looked, there were signs of Cale's careful order. Nothing was out of place. It felt less like a home and more like a safe house. or a place meant to hide something, when Cale returned. He carried a bag of supplies. He set them on the table without a word. But she noticed a faint tension in his shoulders. "You stayed inside?" He asked. "Yes," she lied. His glowing eyes studied her for a moment longer than felt comfortable. Then he gave a small nod. "Good." That evening, as they ate a simple meal of bread and spiced stew, Cale asked, "Do you plan to leave?" Vega 9. Mara shook her head slowly. "I don't know where to go," she said. "There are places you could be safe," Cale replied. The word safe sounded strange in his mouth, as if he didn't believe in it himself. Later, when Mara went to her cabin, she heard it again, the whisper. Faint but clear. She froze in the hallway, her eyes drawn to the cargo hold door. It was not calling her exactly, but it wanted her to listen. The sound carried a strange rhythm, like words wrapped in a heartbeat, and against her better judgment. She stepped closer, her hand hovered over the lock. The symbols shifted slowly. One of them flickered in the same shade of blue as Cale's eyes. Before she could touch it, a voice behind her said, "I told you not to." She turned sharply. Cale was standing at the far end of the hallway. His eyes were brighter than she had ever seen. Almost burning, he stepped forward slowly. "There are things in this galaxy you cannot unsee, Mara," he said. "Behind that door is one of them." Her throat was dry. "What is it?" Cale didn't answer. Instead, he turned and walked away. The hum in the floor grew softer as he moved, but the whisper in her head did not leave. That night, she lay awake in the dark. The warmth of the blanket did nothing to quiet her mind. The door was only a few steps away, and she knew now whatever Cale was hiding. It was the reason he had offered her warmth in the first place, the reason he had chosen her. Morning came slow on Vega 9. The silver mist outside the docking yard clung to the ship's windows. The hum from the cargo hold was faint but constant. Mara sat at the small table, her hands wrapped around a cup of the bitter drink Cale always made. She barely noticed the taste. Her mind was still caught in the moment from last night, his voice behind her, the burning glow in his eyes, the warning. Cale entered the room quietly. He carried a small black box and set it on the table. "Do you remember your husband?" he asked without any greeting. The question struck her like a sudden wind. Her fingers tightened around the cup. "Yes," she said carefully. "Why?" Cale did not sit. Instead, he opened the box, revealing a metal tag, old, scratched, but still bearing a faint engraving. Her breath caught in her throat. It was her husband's service tag. She reached for it with shaking hands. This was his," she whispered. Cale nodded slowly. "I found it on a battlefield," he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were not. They carried the weight of something long buried. "You fought with him?" she asked. "Yes," Cale replied. "Once. Long ago. He saved my life." The words hung in the air between them. Mara searched his face for lies. She found none, only truth, hard and steady. But there was something else there too. Guilt. Where was this battlefield? She asked. Cale's gaze drifted to the floor, not far from where he died. "You mean where they said he died?" she pressed. Cale's jaw tightened. "They didn't lie about the fighting. But they didn't tell you everything." Her pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Cale walked to the small window, staring out into the fog. "Your husband was carrying something," he said slowly. "Something that many wanted and still want." Her mind raced. "Was it?" "What's in your cargo hold?" Cale didn't answer directly. He only said, "What's in there is connected to him." "To you?" Mara's stomach turned. She thought of the whispers behind the locked door, the way the hum seemed to follow her, the strange pull she felt toward it if it was connected to her husband. Then maybe it was trying to reach her. Cale turned back to her. "When he saved me, I promised I would repay that debt." He stepped closer, his eyes steady on hers. "I didn't expect the debt to lead me to you." She swallowed hard. Then, "Why not tell me sooner?" "Because telling you would put you in greater danger," he said. "Danger from who?" she asked, her voice rising from the same ones who killed him. The air seemed to grow colder outside. The mist thickened, dimming the light. Cale's words were not just a warning. They were a shadow stretching into the room. Mara felt it settle over her, heavy and certain. "You think they're still after me?" Cale didn't hesitate. "I know they are. I saw the bounty notices myself." Her hands went cold. She remembered the strange drones in the colony. The whispers in the market. She thought she was just unwanted here because she was human. But maybe it was more than that. Maybe she had been marked before she even stepped. Off the shuttle, Cale walked to the console and pressed a series of controls. A small screen lit up, showing a grainy image, a listing in alien script. But the picture was clear enough. Her face, beside it, numbers that could only mean one thing: payment. "They don't want you for who you are," Cale said quietly. "They want you for what they believe you carry." She shook her head. "I don't carry anything, not in your hands," Cale said, "but perhaps in your memory. Perhaps in your blood." The idea made her feel suddenly smaller, like her own life was no longer her own. She glanced again. Toward the hallway, toward the locked door. "What's in there, Cale?" she asked again, her voice firm. He stared at her for a long moment, then said, "The thing your husband died to protect. The thing I swore to keep safe until the right hands could take it." Her chest tightened. "Are mine the right hands?" Cale didn't answer. Instead, he picked up the black box with the service tag and placed it in her hands. "Your husband thought so." The hum from the cargo hold seemed louder now. It was as if it could sense her holding the tag. The whispers brushed against her mind again, softer this time, almost gentle. She closed her fingers around the metal. The cold felt alive, and somewhere deep inside her, a question began to burn. If this was the debt Cale owed, how far was he willing to go to repay it? The next day began with silence, the kind of silence that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the world was holding its breath. Mara woke to find Cale already gone. The ship's main room was empty. The air still warm but heavy. On the table sat a small note in Cale's neat writing. "Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone." She stared at the words longer than she needed to, her fingers tightening around the paper. It wasn't the kind of warning Cale gave casually. Something was coming. She could feel it, the hum from the cargo hold was stronger today, not just a vibration in the floor, but a sound that seemed to curl around her thoughts. The whispers were clearer now, almost forming words in a language she still couldn't understand. She pressed her hands over her ears, but it didn't help. The voice wasn't in the air. It was inside her mind. She wandered to the ship's small window. The mist outside shifted in slow waves. Through it, she saw movement, shadows gliding. Between the docking pylons, they weren't colonists. Their shapes were wrong. Too sharp, too deliberate. Her breath caught when she saw the faint red gleam of an optical sensor. Drones, not the harmless cargo ones, but hunter drones. The kind that never moved without a target. Mara stepped back from the window. Her heart was pounding. She moved to the console, trying to find a way to lock the ship down. She pressed random controls until one screen lit up, showing a view from an external camera. There were 3 drones outside now. They hovered silently, their sensors sweeping the docking yard, and then she saw them 2 figures stepping out of the mist. They were not human. Their armor was dark and segmented like the shell of some deep-sea creature. Each carried a long hooked weapon. She didn't need to know their language to understand what they were: bounty hunters. Cale's words from yesterday hit her all at once. "I know they are still after you." Her first thought was to hide. but the ship suddenly felt too small to open. She remembered Kale's note, "Don't open the door for anyone." She prayed the hunters didn't have a way in. Then came the sound, a low metallic click from outside, followed by another and another. They were attaching something to the ship's hull. She ran to the console again, trying to see what it was. Her stomach dropped when she spotted it. Charges. They were going to breach the door. Panic surged through her. She looked down the hallway toward the cargo hold if Kale didn't come. Back in time, she might have no choice. Whatever was inside, dangerous or not, it was still locked for a reason. But if the hunters got to it first... The first explosion shook the ship. Metal groaned, lights flickered. Mara was thrown to the floor, her hands covering her head. The hiss of escaping air filled the room. The breach was small, but enough to send a cold wind rushing through the ship. She scrambled to her feet and ran toward the back. The hunters' boots hit the deck with heavy, deliberate thuds. She could hear their voices, low, clicking, alien sounds. Her instincts screamed at her to run faster, but she stopped halfway down the hall. Kale's voice echoed in her memory. "Not for you." Another explosion boomed, closer. This time, the hum from the cargo hold spiked. The whispers were no longer soft. They were calling, urgent and insistent. Her pulse raced as her hand hovered over the lock. The blue symbols shifted rapidly, like they were reacting to her presence. "Mara?" A voice said, not Kale's. It was deep, distorted, and right outside the door. "Step away." She froze. The lock pulsed once, twice, then held still. The whispers in her head grew louder, blocking out the hunter's voice. It was as if something inside was trying to protect her. The sound of a weapon charging snapped. Her back, she turned and saw one of the hunters aiming at her. She dropped to the floor just as a bolt of white energy slammed into the wall where her head had been. Heat washed over her. The hunter advanced, weapon ready. And then the ship roared to life. Every light flared bright, every vent blasted hot air. The hum from the cargo hold became a deep, shaking rumble from somewhere above. A sharp metallic voice cut through the chaos. "Get away from her, Kale." He dropped from the upper hatch, like a shadow landing between Mara and the hunter. In one motion, his hand flashed, and a burst of blue energy shot from his palm. The hunter staggered back, armor smoking. The other one charged from the doorway, but Kale moved faster. He fought with a precision that was almost inhuman. Every strike was aimed to disable, not kill. Within seconds, both hunters were on the floor, unconscious but breathing. Kale turned. "To Mara, you opened the hold," he demanded. She shook her head, still shaking from the near miss. His eyes softened, just slightly. "Good," he said. Glancing at the glowing lock, "They can't have it, no matter what." Mara swallowed hard. Her gaze moved from the hunters to the locked door. The whispers had faded again, but she could still feel them waiting. And she knew one thing for certain. Whatever was inside wasn't just connected to her husband, it was the reason people were willing to kill for her. The docking yard was quiet again. The hunters lay bound in the corner of the ship's main room, their weapons dismantled, outside. The mist had swallowed their drone escorts. Kale worked silently, checking the locks and reinforcing the hull. Mara sat at the table, the service tag still clutched in her hand. Her pulse hadn't slowed since the attack. "They knew where to find me," she said finally. Kale didn't look up. "They always know." The words chilled her more than the cold air seeping through the patched breach. He wasn't just warning her, he was stating a fact. They would come again. And next time, they might bring more. Her eyes drifted toward the hallway, toward the locked cargo hold. Every time her thoughts brushed against it, she felt that strange hum in her chest. It was no longer a distant vibration. It was inside her now. Kale noticed her gaze. "No," he said firmly. "You can't keep saying no without telling me why," she snapped. Kale turned to face her. his eyes glowing brighter than before. Because once you see it, Mara, you can't unsee it. Once you touch it, it will never let you go. She stood. You said my husband died to protect what's in there. You said it's connected to me. It is, Cale said. But connection doesn't always mean safety. Or maybe it means I'm the only one who can protect it now, she countered. Cale's jaw tightened. Do you think this is about courage? It's about survival, yours and everyone else's. The hum deepened. It was as if the cargo hold could hear them. The symbols on the lock pulsed faintly through the narrow gap of the doorframe. Cale glanced at it, and then back to her. If I open that door, there's no going back, he said. You'll have to choose, keep running, or carry what's inside until it kills you. Before she could answer, a sound rolled through the ship, a deep, resonant tone. It wasn't. From outside, it came from the cargo hold. Cale froze. That's new, he muttered. Mara took a step toward the hallway. Don't, he warned. But she kept walking, the pull stronger now than any fear. She stopped in front of the door. The lock symbols shifted in rapid patterns. One of them flared a deep gold, a color she hadn't seen before. It's responding to me, she whispered. Cale came up behind her, his presence a shadow of heat in the cold air. It knows you, he said quietly. How? Because part of it was made from him, Cale said, his voice low, her breath caught. What do you mean, him? Your husband, Cale replied, his mind, his voice. Pieces of who he was are in there. Her knees felt weak. You're saying he's alive. Cale shook his head slowly. Not alive, but not gone either. The hum rose into a soft, melodic rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Mara reached for the panel. Cale's hand shot out. Catching her wrist, you don't have to do this. He said, I think I do. She whispered back. His eyes searched hers. You open it, you carry the burden forever, even if it breaks you. She thought of the hunters, of the bounty notice with her face on it. She thought of the cold streets when she first arrived on Vega 9, and she thought of her husband's smile. The way it had always made her feel safe. I'm already carrying the burden, she said. Cale's grip loosened. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then he stepped aside. Mara placed her palm flat against the lock. The symbols flared, the gold one burning brightest. The hum shifted into a low, resonant chord. The lock clicked. The door slid open with a slow hiss. Inside, the air shimmered faintly. Like heat waves, the space was dim, lit only by the glow of a crystalline structure in the center. It stood taller than her, its surface smooth and glass-like. Inside it, shadows moved, not shapes, but impressions. And then she heard it. Voice, soft but clear. Mara? Her heart slammed in her chest. She knew that voice. She had heard it 100 times in her life. Daniel, she whispered. Cale stood behind her, silent. The voice spoke again. Warmer now, Mara. You found me. Her eyes filled with tears. She stepped closer. Pressing her hand to the crystal surface, it was warm, impossibly warm. I thought you were dead, she said, her voice shaking. I am, the voice replied. But not here. Not entirely. Cale's voice broke the moment. It's not him the way you remember. It's fragments. Memories, thoughts, instincts. Daniel's voice answered. I am enough to finish what we started. Mara turned to Cale. What does that mean? Cale's eyes held something she couldn't read. It means the choice is yours now. He said, leave it here and walk away. Or take it and never have a normal life again. The crystal pulsed once, twice. The hum in her chest matched it perfectly. Mara's hand stayed on the warm surface. She didn't know if she could walk. Away not from him, not from the truth. The crystal's glow painted Mara's face in shifting gold and silver. Her hand rested against the smooth surface, The hum pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Kale stood behind her, silent, watching. Daniel's voice warm, steady, impossibly familiar filled the small cargo hold. "You can take me," the voice said, "not me as I was. But what I am now." Mara's throat tightened. "You're not whole," she said softly. "No," Daniel replied, "but I'm enough to guide you." Enough to finish the fight. Kale stepped forward, his eyes brighter than ever. "If you remove the crystal from this ship, every hunter, every syndicate, every shadow in the galaxy will come for you." Mara turned to him. "They already." Our Kale didn't argue. Instead, he looked at the crystal, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw fear in his expression. "What is this really?" she asked. Kale's jaw tightened. "A data core," he said slowly. "But not just a machine. It's part organic, part neural imprint." Her mind spun at the words. "You mean part of him is?" Inside this, Kale nodded once. Yes. His memories, his voice, his tactical instincts. Everything the enemy wanted when they killed him. Daniel's voice broke through again. "They never got it, Mara." Kale made sure of that. Her eyes flicked between the crystal and Kale. "You saved him." Kale shook his head. "I saved what could be saved." There was no pride in his voice, only the weight of a promise kept too long. Mara turned back to the crystal. Her reflection wavered across its surface. She thought of the cold streets on Vega 9, the way people had looked at her like trouble. The bounty notice with her face on it. Her husband's absence like a hollow ache. And now, it's the impossible part of him still here, still reaching for her. Kale's voice broke into her thoughts. "If you take it, you can't hide," he said. "You'll have to run, fight, maybe die with it." Mara's fingers curled against the warm glass. "If I leave it, what happens?" "It stays here, buried," Kale said. "And one day, when I'm gone, someone else might find it. Someone who won't protect it." The hum deepened, the light inside the crystal flaring. Daniel's voice softened. "Mara, I don't want you to do this for me." She closed her eyes. "Then why ask?" "Because," Daniel said, "you've never walked away from what's right." Kale stepped closer, his tone sharper now. "Think before you decide. This isn't just a keepsake. It's a weapon, a key. It can save lives or end them." The words pressed heavy in her mind. Her grip on the crystal tightened. "I'm tired of running from things I don't understand," she said finally. "I'm tired of being left in the cold." The crystal pulsed hard. Its warmth flooded her hand, traveled up her arm, settling deep in her chest. It was more than heat. It was recognition, connection. She could feel Daniel in it now. Not just his voice. Flashes of memory hit her. His laughter, his hand in hers, the smell of old rain. On Earth, her eyes stung. "I'm taking him," she said. Kale's expression darkened. "You've chosen your path." He moved to the console and pressed a series of commands. The metal frame around the crystal split open with a hiss. The glow spilled into the room, stronger than before, as Mara wrapped her arms around it. The hum sank into her bones. It was heavy, but not in the way she expected. It felt like carrying something alive. The ship's systems reacted instantly. Warning lights flashed. A deep alarm sounded. "They'll know the moment it leaves the dock," Kale said. "Then we leave now," Mara replied. Kale hesitated for a fraction of a second, then moved to the pilot's chair. The engines roared to life, the floor vibrating beneath their feet. Outside, the mist swirled violently as the ship lifted from the landing pad. Mara sat with the crystal in her lap, holding it tight. Daniel's voice was quiet now, like a whisper in her ear. "You'll have to be stronger than you've ever been." She let out a shaky breath. "I don't feel strong." "You will," the voice promised. Kale's voice came from the cockpit. "2 ships on our tail already. Fast ones, Mara didn't need to ask who they were. She knew her choice had lit a fire in the dark. And now the whole galaxy would see it. The ship shot upward, breaking through the layers of fog into the black expanse of space. Stars stretched like silver lines as Kale pushed the engines to their limit. Mara looked down at the crystal. It glowed steady in her arms. For the first time since she'd left Earth, she felt warmth. Not the kind Kale had spoken of at first, but something deeper, something like purpose. Kale's voice cut through the hum of the engines. Hold on to it. Hold on to yourself. They'll try to take both. Mara nodded. Her gaze stayed fixed on the stars ahead. Home was no longer a place she could return to. But maybe, just maybe, it was something she could build again if she survived long enough to keep the promise she'd just made.